Welcome to After School with Mr. Van Huss, episode 9. My special guest today is a percussionist in a country music group that has had over 20 songs chart on country radio. 9 of those songs even went all the way to number 1. In 1999, this group had a song called Amazed that not only hit number 1 on the country charts, but also went all the way to number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100. And in 1999, they were the first ones to do that since Kenny Rogers and Dolly Parton had done it with Islands in the Stream in 1983. This group has had numerous albums that have been certified gold and platinum, including their album Lonely Grill that went platinum 3 times. It is my great pleasure to welcome from the group Lonestar, Mr. Keech Rainwater. Welcome to After School with Mr. Van Huss, Mr. Keech Rainwater. Thanks for being here with me today.
I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
So for anybody who may not know you, give me a little background. Tell me who Keech Rainwater is and what's he do?
He is, or I should say I am, I'm the drummer for the band Lonestar, who have been making hit records since 1995. We've had records out and been part of the country music industry and just out there playing on the road and had a career even that goes back before that. I was in a band called Canyon in the late 80s. And before that, I was just in Dallas, Texas, trying to play all the clubs and trying to become a professional and trying to get better at my craft. And eventually I just, through different path changes, I ended up in Nashville and in this nice little band called Lonestar, and lucked out into that and learned so much over the years, you know.
Now, how did Lone Star first come together? You guys were all from Texas, right?
That's right. Yeah, we all played the same honky tonks and the same clubs, along with people like Trace Atkins and Ty Herndon and all those Reba McEntire. All of us, we all played. Toby Keith. We all played the same clubs in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And in the early 90s, things changed a little bit. The clubs started going to DJs a lot more. So instead of hiring a whole band, they would just hire like one person to spin records and keep the dance floor hopping all night long. And so the live music industry sort of dried up a little bit in Dallas. And so a lot of people were trying to figure out what to do. A lot of us ended up moving up to Nashville because that's where the industry was. And that's where a lot of people were getting record deals and writing songs. And it was a whole industry up there. Other than just the live music industry, there was a whole recording industry and songwriting industry and that whole kind of thing. So we all, at separate times, all of us in Lone Star moved up to Nashville, just over the period of from about 92 till 91 till about 94. I was the last one to move up to Nashville and join the band, and just trying to make it as a band on the road kind of thing and hoping to get a record deal. And we finally landed a record deal with RCA, which also had another label called B&A. So RCA and B&A were the same label. They were under the same roof. So we were on the B&A side of RCA and got our record deal, started making records, and I guess the rest is history.
So what influenced you to want to be a musician growing up?
To be a musician, well, I will say that I found out later, a strange fact about me that I thought was totally normal at the time was when I was a kid, I always had a drum beat in my head. It's really weird. And it's to this day, there's not a minute of the day that there's not some kind of rhythm cycling in my head, some kind of drum pattern or some kind of weird little drum beat from a song or just drums by themselves. It's just kind of a strange thing that my brain does. And I had done that when I was a kid. I always was singing little drum beats and kind of air drumming and that kind of thing. And I tried out for the drum. I wanted to be in the band. You know, when I got to 6th grade, I wanted to play drums, but it was very discouraging. They said, we've got enough drummers. We don't need any more drummers. Pick another instrument. And so my dad had played trumpet, and that was kind of my fallback. That was my backup instrument. So I decided to play trumpet. And I did that for 4 years, just secretly wanting to be a drummer and dreaming about being jealous of all those drummers that could go in the drum practice rooms and play, which I couldn't. They wouldn't let us go in there. You know, they were like, you're not a drummer. You don't belong. playing the drums. You're going to break something, you know? So I just thought that was really discouraging to me. But when I got to be about 15, I was in ninth grade, and I finally bought my first set of drums. I saved up money and I finally found a drum set. It wasn't even a full kit. It was like a friend of mine in band. He was a trombone player. His brother was a drummer, and he was selling like some drums. It was like a bass drum with no pedal. It was a floor tom with no legs. It was snare with no snare bottom, no strainer, snare, wires. It was pretty terrible. No cymbals, nothing. It was just like a little collection of drums. Well, I fashioned that into what I thought was a pretty full drum kit, you know, filling it with anything I could that made drum sounds, you know, pots and pans and whatever, you know. So I started practicing and started playing, and that's what got me going. But I would say what inspired me to be a musician was just that being in band and that striving to play with other musicians and create a sound that was like one sound, but it was a group of people. I got that early on when other people, I don't think, got that. Because I would say something to the trumpet player next to me. I would say, "Ain't that cool the way the flutes do that one part and we do our part?" And their reaction would be like, "I don't know. I just playing what's on the page, you know." And I was kind of like, you're not listening to the whole, you know, the song, you know, all the parts. And I realized early on that I was part of a select group of people that got that understood, you know, that wanted, that strived to play your little part in which was part of a bigger thing that made the cohesive sound of a song or a band or a sound or something like that. And that really drove me to keep going.
So before you got into music, who were some of your heroes in the field? Like, who did you want to be like growing up?
So when I started in band, you know, and started to realize that there were like other instruments coming together, and you could hear even in pop radio, I started listening different. I started listening to things like bass guitar and not just guitar, but 12-string guitar or electric versus acoustic guitar. We started getting that knowledge of what different instruments were, and the band Boston had just hit the radio, and Boston's records, Tom Scholes, the leader of Boston and the engineer and sort of the writer, he always, the mixes of Boston, kind of like Steely Dan in the same way, the fidelity was so good that you could hear all the different parts. And I wanted to be the drummer for Boston so bad. That's what that drummer and the music from Boston got me so inspired. And that just kept me going. I wanted so bad to be a part of something like that. Not hard rock, but rock that had this dynamics to it, you know, like acoustic guitar and, you know, like all these different 12-string and stuff like that.
Very cool. So what was high school like for you, and what kind of further education did you do after high school?
Well, when I got in 10th grade, I had been in band since 6th grade, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th grade. All for 4 years, I played trumpet, and I actually enjoyed it. I was a good trumpet player, and you know, I was always in the first top 4 chairs, and we had like 20 something trumpets, 22, 25, whatever, at any given time. We had a lot of trumpet players, cornet players, I should say. I was always in the top 4 because I just practiced and I got it, and I was just like play as good as I could, and I just got the whole music thing. But secretly, I really wanted to be a drummer. So in 10th grade, I had an art class that conflicted with band, and I somehow kind of accidentally on purpose got out of band because I wanted to focus more on drums. I had my little drum kit now, and I could practice, and it was like my beginning of a long journey of trying to be in a band or get in a band or put a band together of musicians who wanted to play the same kind of music that I wanted to play, which is like Boston, Kansas, like kind of like 70s pop rock kind of stuff. Wasn't into disco at all, even though that was like in your face back then in the late 70s. Didn't like that too much. But I liked music that had a challenge to it, that had some like Steely Dan and Boston and Kansas and stuff like that. And what, strangely enough, not ever having played drum kit before, the first time I ever sat down at drums, it was a guy had a kit in my neighborhood, and I could hear drums. I could hear live drums coming from somewhere. And so I followed the sound, and it was in somebody's garage. There was a guitar player playing, This would have been about 1976, maybe. And he was playing a Doobie Brothers song. And I said, all the neighbor kids were taking their turns playing. So I got up there and I took my turn, and I could play. I could kick, snare, ride cymbal, hat. I just knew what to do. And I'd never played on a drum kit before. And the guy sort of asked me, he said, "Hey, you're pretty good. How long you been playing?" And I was like, "This is my first time." So it kind of was encouraging to me, because I just thought, I just thought everybody could do that. I was sort of naive and thinking that everybody had that sort of, just like walking. It was as easy as walking to me. So I just thought everybody knew how to play drums, but it was odd to find out that that was not true.
Did you have a favorite teacher in school, or anybody that was like a mentor to you that kind of encouraged you and pushed you forward?
Yeah, we had a band director. His name was Mr. Collinsworth, Mike Collinsworth, in Plano, Texas, in the late 70s, mid to late 70s. And he taught everything. He was my elementary school in 6th grade band director. And then when we got to middle school, he was my band director there. And then once I got to high school, he didn't teach high school band, but we had a different band director. But Michael Collinsworth, Mr. Collinsworth, he was one of those guys that just had he was such a good teacher and such a good wealth of information of how you approach the whole band thing or playing as a group. And I remember one thing he said that stuck with me. He said, and I didn't get it at the time, I totally just went over my head. He said, "When in doubt, overdo." And I thought, well, wait a minute, but if I'm in doubt and I play something, it's going to stick out like a sore thumb. It's going to sound terrible. But then what I didn't realize is what he was trying to say is that when in doubt, you overdo, so that next time, once you do make that mistake, next time you do it, you're not going to make that mistake again. You're going to sort of get it. And yeah, that hit hard, man. Once I finally realized that. And he was just full of cool things like that. And he was a very, I don't want to say strict. He was kind of funny too, but he was strict when it came to practice and when it came to everybody focusing and that kind of thing. So that was really cool.
Very cool. So you've got the ear of some high school students. What is one life lesson that you would pass on to students today?
One life lesson is that once you realize that you have a passion for something, don't ever let anybody tell you that you can't make a living at it, or that it's not realistic, or that you should think of doing something that makes more money or whatever, because money, it's not about money. At the end of the day, it's about enjoying what you do and waking up every day and saying to yourself, I get to do this. I get to do this for a living. This is my job. And once you find something that you love doing more than anything else, if you focus on it and you stick with it, it will happen. It's inevitable. It's like gravity. Because if you start working at something, you're going to get better at it. And as you get better at it, people will notice that. And when people notice that, people want to pay you to do it. I just learned that a long time ago. I think my father was trying to get me to do something more lucrative, like advertising or something like working and owning a company or something. And I just wanted to play drums because it was just the easiest thing for me to do. And I had such a passion for it. I couldn't wait to do it. And all my whole career, I have never thought in my mind, maybe I should do something else, or I'm kind of frustrated with this, or this band just broke up and now I'm out of a job again. I never once sat and thought, maybe I should do something else. It was always a matter of, well, I guess I'll wait by the phone for it to ring because this is what I'm doing. And I starved a couple of times, ate ramen noodles and instant mashed potatoes for a while, and then I'd get in another band and start making some money again. And eventually I got to where I really focused on what the kind of drummer I wanted to be. And I started practicing more, working on my look and my sound, and just getting better at being a professional. And that did it for me, because when I was younger, I was standing around, it was kind of one of those epiphany moments. I was standing around a bunch of other musicians who were talking about another drummer, just in conversation, saying somebody was looking for a drummer or something like that. And they were talking about this drummer that I knew of, Mike McCaskill was his name. And they said, yeah, you should get him. He's a great drummer. And secretly in my mind, I was thinking, I want to be that guy. I want to be the guy that people say, you should get him. You should get Keech Rainwater. He's the guy you need. And over the years, I worked on that. I worked on becoming that guy. Like, what is it about that drummer that they liked? He kept good time. Did he play loud? Did he have good chops or whatever? So I started working on all that stuff. And then eventually I got to be that guy, before I got the job with Lonestar, people were saying, hey, you should get Keech Rainwater. He's the guy you need. He's the one. And I sort of became that guy, that sort of go-to drummer that everybody wanted. And I worked hard for that,
That's excellent. I can tell you from personal experience, I think it was about 1995. I think I was a senior in high school, probably the first time I saw the video for No News on CMT.
Right.
I remember first time I saw that, I was like, oh, I love this band. I was like, I want to follow these guys because they're so cool. And I was in from that point on. And when we hit the late 90s right there, about 99, 2000, when Amazed hit, I don't think there was a bigger band in country music than you guys.
Yeah, that was a great time. That was really because the song Amazed, it also crossed over to the pop charts just through just an incident. There was like a radio guy over in London, London, England, that wanted to play our song. But when over in Europe, they have a different mix than we do. When they listen to music, it's a different mix. So he was allowed to remix the song to more of sort of European sounding with lots of synthesizer and things like that in there. And that became real popular over there. And then somebody in the States got a hold of that mix and played it on a pop station, and it became a pop song. It became like in the adult contemporary, the AC, top 100. And then the label paid our producer to remix that song again for American pop. So there's all these different versions of it. But had that not happened, I don't know, we would probably be a different band, or we'd be in a different place now.
Well, this is incredible. And I know Lone Star's still going strong. You guys are with Drew Womack now.
That's right. Yeah.
The lead singer, who was formerly with Sons of the Desert.
Yeah.
Guy's got an incredible voice. I've always loved Sons of the Desert also.
Yeah, thanks.
And I know you guys are still there with Dean and Michael also. And
yeah,
it's awesome to see you guys still making music and still doing your thing.
It is so great. I mean, it's just great. Like I said, about having a job where you can't wait to wake up in the morning to do what you do. That's where we're at right now. And have been for a long time. Every day it's the business of Lonestar, and we think about it. We talk about it. We plan. We just bought a new bus, getting that going. And it's just a great time right now. And it seems like wherever we play, 90s country is kind of the thing now, and it seems like we are sort of one of the few bands that are still out there playing from the 90s country that are semi-original, like accurate members of the band and that kind of thing, that we're still out there making music. So we get a lot of good crowds. It's been wonderful.
Well, I really hope I get to make it out to a show somewhere down the road and see you guys again. I've seen you live a few times, but it's been a couple of years, and I'd definitely like to catch you again. I know you guys were always wonderful to work with. Like, everybody in the band was always so nice. I think Dean actually came to my college when I was at MTSU and spoke to like one of our songwriting groups or something like that.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
I know you guys have always been like outgoing and, there for the next generation. And I greatly appreciate that, especially as a teacher now. It means a lot.
Yeah. I don't do it much anymore, but for a couple of years there, I had a podcast called Designated Drummer on Spotify, and all those episodes are still up there. If you ever want to check that out, there's a bunch of interviews with drummers and other musicians, music industry professionals, all the way from media coaches to entertainment attorneys to agents to sound men, studio mixing engineers, that kind of thing, and how their whole journey started. And I think if you're ever thinking about a profession in music, then if you listen to that, you'll probably find one that might have some good advice in there from somebody.
All right. Well, I greatly appreciate you taking time to talk to me today. It was wonderful getting to talk to you, and I know my students will greatly appreciate hearing that advice. So I thank you very much for staying after school with Mr. Van Huss today.
Yeah, man. And I love your school. I actually run out at your track all the time when there's not a game or something going on up there
Excellent.
at the football track. And I have been ever since COVID
Mhm.
happened. Yeah, couldn't go to the gym anymore. So I remember my son, Dakota, he used to go to station camp. And I remember that football field. And so that just struck me as a good place to run. And so my girlfriend and I, we've been running there ever since before, right around COVID, and still do it to this day if we can get out there and there's not a game going on.
Well, hopefully in the next year or so, we're getting a brand new track. So it's going to get
Is that right?
even better to run on it in the next year or so.
Oh, that's awesome. I can't wait
Yes.
to try it out. But anyway, yeah, well, study hard and practice hard, and don't ever let anybody tell you that you can't make a living doing whatever it is you love doing, and just keep at it.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for talking to me, Keech. I appreciate
Okay,
it.
thanks.
Have a good one. See you soon.
Bye.